What's going on, guys? Time for another video. This one's going to be a little bit different. As you guys can see, I'm going to be showing you what I picked for my BPM Sport Tune on my E92 M3. I'm going to try a new little method here, my screen recording tool, and we're just going to jump right into it. I recently got a tune and a lot of people are asking, and I had a lot of questions when I was looking around for a tune as well. And essentially what's really cool about these things is you get to pretty much pick exactly what you want. So I'm gonna show you exactly what I picked and give you kind of a little overview as to why, and maybe give you some insight into if I would have changed anything and why I would have, or if I would have changed it to something else. So let's get started. I just went to bpmsport.com, pretty simple, and you go right to the engine tuning button here. And you go down to the E92 E90X series M3. Obviously they have them for a lot of different BMWs. And here we are. So this is the main page. It gives you kind of the overview. Right now they are $100 off, it looks like. It's the end of February. And with my code, which I will put on the screen and also in the description, you get an additional 10% off, which is really cool. So Mike agreed to work with me, and I know a lot of you guys have questions, and a lot of you guys are interested in discounts and things like that. So that is the discount. It'll be in the description. I would say do your own research, but this kind of gives you an overview. I'm just gonna go down as the page is. I have stage 2. Because I have test pipes which remove the primary catalytic converters, and there's a little bit of other additional information as well. So here are the more background on it, but we're gonna kind of jump down here to where you pick exactly what you have. So E92, I have a 2011 United States. You'll put your VIN in there, and I have the manual. If you have the dual clutch, you can obviously get this special dual clutch software as well. I've heard really good things about tuning the dual clutch, the software for sharpening it up and doing a bunch of other stuff. I don't really know a lot about that because I have the manual, so we're gonna go with the manual. This sport launch I did not pick. I've never really mentioned this, but I decided that, so essentially what the sport launch is if you have a manual car, it will hold the revs at, let's say, 3,500. I think 3,500 is probably the most popular one people pick. And what you do is it's sort of like an automatic sort of launch mode. It's a launch assist. So you put the pedal all the way to the ground and the RPMs stay at 3,500, and all you do is just dump the clutch and then off you go. So the benefit of that is you have very predictable launches, and they're much easier to do. The only downside to doing something like this is if you're parked, you can't rev past 3,500 unless the car is moving at least like a half a mile to a mile an hour or more. So if you're rolling down the road and you want to blip the throttle, or you want to rev really high, pressing the clutch, you can still do that as long as you're moving. But if you're parked and someone, people ask me, I want to hear your setup. So I'm at Cars and Coffee and people want to hear me rev my engine a little bit. It doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes it does. Or I'm at home and my buddy's over and we want to kind of hear it, or hear the 3,000 blip up. I don't really do a lot of annoying revving, but my setup is pretty unique. It's a very unique sound, almost exotic, I would say. So people want to hear that, and I don't really launch the car. It's very hard on the car. I don't launch it, and I just didn't want that to get in the way of my everyday little revs or whatever I wanted to do. So I did not elect this. The ignition timing, fuel, I chose 93 octane because the best one to pick is the one you get the most. If you choose 91 between 93, it's really not going to be much of a difference. You probably won't even be able to tell, but if you were to put 91 in when you tune it for 93, the engine would just take that into account like it does now. So the minimum is 91, but if you put in 93, you might get a little bit more juice out of the engine. But it does take a little bit of time, at least I think a full tank of gas for the computer to sort of recalibrate or adjust over time. So I picked 93 because I get that the most, it's close, and for the most part, you know, I wouldn't have a problem getting that. So one of the things I picked, both of these, by the way. So cold start rev limit protection, that limits the revs to 4,500 if the engine is not warmed up. So normally I don't rev it past like 35 to 4,000 RPM when the engine hasn't warmed up, the oil hasn't warmed up, just because the way that the S65 motor is. So that is something that I'm very vigilant about. But if you have someone move your car, or there's a valet for whatever reason, or you forget, or you miss shift for some reason, something like that, it doesn't hurt to have this rev limit protection when the engine is not warm enough. That's the only point that it will protect it, is when the engine is not warm, because when the engine's warm, it's fine, no big deal. And then the cold start cat heating sequence is pretty much the engine, the CPU adding extra fuel when you start the car to help warm up the cats quicker so they start working for emissions reasons. And if you don't have primary cats, that's pretty much pointless, especially if you let the engine warm up for a few minutes, which you should do if you have an E90 or E92 M3. So the cold start is pointless because I let the car sit for a few minutes anyways. The unfortunate part of that is you don't really get kind of a fun cold start, and I know it sounds it is kind of dumb to have that as a reason, but you get so used to it. You know, my response is every car, even the Jeep, I mean, it's a V8, you hear it a little louder, it's just, you get so used to it. So I'm leaning towards trying to figure out maybe eventually tuning that back in, to be honest with you guys, because saving fuel, and I don't really care, it's not gonna save a lot of fuel, but the time that you turn the car on, it's just, I don't know, I like it. And my cold start's really not loud, but it's louder than, you know, turning it off, obviously. So I would recommend unchecking that, but I did have this checked when I picked it. So that's my opinion on there. The top speed limiter, I don't see why you wouldn't turn that off, and I did raise the RPM. The top speed limiter, I believe, is 155 in the US, so that completely turns it off. And the raised RPM limit, I put mine to 8,500 as opposed to the stock 8,400. And really what's most important, you can put it up to 86, especially if your car is lower miles and you're not driving around at 8,600 RPM all the time. You know, my opinion on this is it's sort of situationally very important about how you operate your car and the environments, and if you're going to the track, and just how intense you are at driving. And really what interested me the most is I was talking to Mike Benbow, who owns BPM, and he was explaining how even raising it to 8,500, which is the one I picked, allows you to rev to that, at least the 8,400 number, because when it's at 8,400 and you're in first or second gear, first to second, second to third, it actually cuts power. The rev limiter is a tiny bit higher, or a tiny bit lower than 8,400. So if you're in first gear going to second and your RPMs are climbing super quick, the CPU takes that into account and actually cuts it before there because it anticipates you hitting that. So it actually, if you increase it to 8,500 or even 8,600, it allows you to actually hit it, when before it would cut it before it. And it's hard to tell, but I can definitely tell especially when I'm going from third to fourth, or if I'm getting on if I'm on the highway and I drop down to third at 70 or so, I mean, it goes to 8,500, that is for sure. So I would definitely recommend raising this to 8,500. If you're gonna go to 86, it's probably not a huge difference, but I would definitely maybe talk to Mike if you're worried about it. He's the expert here, I am not the expert. Definitely email BPM or ask people who have the tune, ask around, don't rely on me only. But I wanted to stay at 8,500, I just didn't have a reason. 8,600 seems really awesome, but I was just uncomfortable. I know it's not a huge difference, but 8,500 is what I picked. So Servtronic is the steering. I picked yes, but I will say in MDM mode around the city, I did not like how heavy the steering is. So for now, I have turned my MDM mode to have it in regular steering. So it is on the heavier side, but it's not as heavy as it could be. And I think I like it that way for now. I think that the stock steering is fine, but adding the Surftronic, you know, from BPM is nice. It's definitely a nice little, a sportier feel, like they say. So I would say do that. Stage 2, I have stage 2 and I have test pipe. So here are your different options for stage 2. Additional coating, you know, Euro, MDM, and you know, all kinds of other things. You can do that if you'd like. I don't really know much about that because I didn't pick it, and not a lot of people really seem to go too crazy over it. So I just said no. Forum member, yeah, M3 post. You put your, mine is BMB063, which is like my OG name when I started forums and stuff. So if you're on M3 post, it's probably obvious it's me because it's a white M3 with all my mods on it. And the last thing is, this is really no big deal. I did pick Mac OS 10 when I bought this, but you have to have a Windows computer regardless. So make sure you either have Boot Camp for your Mac or you have access to a Mac. All you need is to plug in the computer to the car really quick. It's super simple, and then that's it. So then you go, well, I don't know what my VIN is. Hopefully it probably won't even let me go through. Oh yeah. So, and then this next page, so obviously this is not the right VIN, but this page, it tells you everything so you can review it, just make sure. So these are everything that I picked. If you guys are interested, everything is here. And then the discount code for the millionth time. I'm excited about this. And I hope you guys, I want you guys to take advantage of this because this is really cool. I think it's really cool. Brandon BM3, you know, having my own discount code is pretty sweet. So, and right now, this code's available for about 3 months, so we'll see what happens after 3 months, if people go crazy, if people don't. So that shaved off $90. I mean, you're spending a little over $800 for a tune that on the market is, you know, $1,000, and then there's all the other companies that do it for that or even more, and they aren't necessarily better. So I would recommend this. Like I said, if you have any questions, reach out to them. They are the experts. I am not. This was just a video to show you guys what I picked and why, and give you sort of insight, because this was something that I spent a lot of time with. Once they give you the ability to change stuff, it takes me a lot of research and time to actually come up with a decision. So that is why I'm kind of doing a video on it and doing something a little differently today. So I really hope that you appreciate and enjoy it. Let me know if I missed anything. Like I mentioned, the cold start, I would just not elect that. And I'm sorry for those of you guys who are like, oh, it's pointless if you don't have primary cats, but it's not pointless because I love the sound. So I think most of you guys can relate to that. But anyways, that is gonna be it. Thank you for watching this video. Give me a big thumbs up if you appreciated it, because I'm happy to relay this exciting content. Finally, I have cool M3 mods. It's not freezing cold outside, and there's gonna be plenty more to come. So I'm gonna be doing some exterior mods very soon here. I have to sort of dial in exactly what I wanna do and when, and I have a couple car events and meets and traveling and all that stuff I wanna do, so I have to fit it in at the right time, but I will keep you guys in the loop for sure. So subscribe, don't forget to do that, and I will see you guys next time.